Alright, so in the first scenario, Jim Smith signs up as a new user and logs in.
Flashcards, manzana, apple, pan, bread, leche, milk, multiple choice question.
Alright, and then in the second scenario, Jim Smith completes the first module with 4 out of 5 success.
Multiple choice question. Matching game. You scored 80%, you can advance to the next module. Flashcards, mesa, desk, class, libro, book, multiple choice question.
Alright, and in the third scenario, Jim Smith fails a module with 3 out of 5.
Multiple choice question. Matching game. You scored 60%, time to try again. Flashcards, mesa, desk, class, libro, book.
Alright, and then in the fourth scenario, Jim Smith logs out and logs back in to retry. And then in the user JSON, you can see it saved as progress.
For the user list, it's maintaining a collection of users using a hash map with UUID as the key and the user as the value. So our variables, we have a hash map users, we have a static user list, and we have an int size to keep track. So we have a method called user list get instance, and this will basically check if it exists or not. If it doesn't exist, then it will create a user list, a new user list, and return the user list back. We have add user, and this is just adding a new user and all the information as well for it, like the first name, last name, etc. And then we have get user, which is just pretty simple. You just get the user. We have the edit user. Edits the user info by the field index. So we have a switch statement for it for certain scenarios. We have a remove user method. We have a login method using the username and the password. We have the get user ID using the username. And then we have a save method, save the users. We get the number of users with the integer get size. And we have a get all users method, which is asking to get all the users. For the next one, we have language list, and it's a class manages a list of languages associated with each user using a hash map. We have a constructor to initialize the hash map user languages. We have a get instance for it. We have add languages, and check if the user has other languages in the hash map. If this is the user first language, we'll add them to the hash map with a new array list to hold their languages. If the user has a previous language, it just adds the language onto the existing array list. Next, we have get language, and this goes through the list of a user languages. And if the user has added the foreign language requested, it will return that language. If the user requested language does not have added, then it will return null. And then we have an array list of get all the languages, and then we have the data writer to save the languages.
Okay, so this is our facade, and basically the facade will handle everything that the user needs to do. So it's tracking the board game, it's tracking the language list, user list, and it also has variables for the current lesson, current language. And basically, anytime the user wants to do something with our program, they'll call it through the facade. So you've got like log in, log out, get user, sign up, edit user, move friend setting, and all of these functions for the lessons. Now, how we track progress is we have a progress class. So each user will have an instance of this. So we've got hash maps to track lesson progress, the total number of incompleted questions, the questions that the user keeps getting incorrect, and also language progress and what module they are. So yeah, these are the functions for how we track the user's progress through a language.
So using a hash map, the main two purposes of our data loader is responsible for loading in all the user's data, including their personal data and their saved data and their fence list from the JSON, from the user JSON file. The secondary function is also responsible for loading in all the user's languages, their progress in the language, and the incomplete lessons that they still have remaining. Our data loader then extends to our data constant, in which it loads all the user settings, and their fence list into a user list, and then return it full. And then our data loader also connects to our dictionary manager and dictionary JSON. So what that basically does is it reads in all the words from the dictionary JSON and returns it into the dictionary manager fully populated with all the words. So moving on to the dictionary manager. So the dictionary manager is basically our way of managing our dictionary JSON, which is separated into three categories, which have our difficulties, our topics, and it has an English and Spanish translation. So the way that the dictionary manager manages this, that it adds the words to the dictionary first, and then it bases that off of the difficulty level, the category of the word, the language that the word is in, which is Spanish, and then the English translation of that word. So once it does that, it retrieves the translation of the word. It also retrieves the meaning of the word, and then yeah, and then at the bottom we have a test, which is how we basically test to see, make sure that when a user inputs these words, it will retrieve that from the dictionary JSON. And that right there is the dictionary JSON, which again is separated into the categories of easy, medium, and hard, with the different topics we have, including schools, parent, family, pet, whatever, and also has the English and Spanish translations of the words.
Alright, so looking over the UML, we have the UI, which uses the facade. The facade handles pretty much everything that's going to be done or that a user would want to do inside of the program. We also have the board game, which has a board and a player. The player class is just used to keep track of where the user is and their lessons. The board updates with the player's location. Then we have the user list, which we use the data writer and data loader and the user class to store a list of users. Data loader also just access information through the JSON files, and the data constants hold the keys for the JSON files. The user also has settings and progress attached to that user, which keeps track of progress and gives them individualized settings. And then looking at the language class, you can set your difficulty through an enumeration and what language you want to do through an enumeration. Looking at the lesson class, it's going to have all the different instances of lesson types, which then you see on to the left side of that, we have 5 different lesson types of picture story, flashcard, multiple choice, fill in the blank, and matching, which all use the word class and the interface question, along with the enumeration of the word type to give different to give you access to all the different words that will be needed based on each lesson and how we need to load in. And then the dictionary manager calls the data loader to load in the dictionary JSON, along with the lesson type enumeration off the lesson.